Greetings, YouTube. So I had a dream last night that I think is just perfect for an adventure. And the nice thing is this particular idea is divorced from a specific setting and divorced from a particular power level. Now it's going to have one thing. It's going to have to be set in a world where there is some level of the supernatural. So it's not going to work in a hardcore realistic game. It isn't going to work in a hardcore science fiction game, realistic, relativistic universe where there are no psionics or anything. It's going to need to have some supernatural elements, but it could work in any kind of a modern setting if those settings have a supernatural elements, and of course it can work in any kind of fantasy setting at all. And it takes place in a school, and the beauty of this particular idea is that it can any level of school. This could come out as grammar school or middle school. It could be high school, which is middle school in some places. I'm not sure. It could be used in college. It could be at Hogwarts. It could be at any kind of school. The only thing you need to do is you need to have two different groups vying for an award. So, particularly if an award that is achieved through some kind of moderately arcane point system would be best, I think. Because in the dream it was kind of very fuzzy about how this happened. But essentially, two groups said they both were the winners of an award. And there was enough fuzzy wiggle room that each group could make a justifiable bid for ownership of that award. And it was a physical object, but it was also a prestige to go along with the physical object. Think Stanley Cup, the award gets transferred from team to team kind of thing for each different season or year, whatever. So they call in an arbiter. And the arbiter's job is to look at the situation, make a judgment, and decide which group won the award. Now, the arbiter was agreed upon by both groups. So they both said, yes, we agree that this person should be the arbiter of this particular situation. Now, unbeknownst to the groups in question, the arbiter in question was a lycanthrope, or is a lycanthrope. And it's a lycanthrope in a world where there are distinct power structures of lycanthropes. So yeah, kind of world of darkness, but not quite that huge. There aren't, hopefully there aren't 1,000,001 different types of lycanthrope in the world, but maybe there are. Question of fantasy setting is less worrisome whether there's multiple groups of lycanthropes or not. But there are distinct pack structures. So in essence, when one group says they're going to do something, they will defend that position against intrusion from all other groups. So it's very much, if once they give their word, the entire pack gives their word, or pride, or whatever you want to call the group of lycanthropes in question. So they call him the arbiter. He's a lycanthrope. I think it was wolves in my dream, though it was kind of fuzzy. It doesn't have to be particular. And he makes the decision, and by making that decision, he is saying, my pack stands behind me for making this decision. Now, not everyone in the pack could be in agreement, so you could actually have this adventure being the player characters are the lycanthropes. It doesn't necessarily have to be that the player characters are one of the two groups arguing over the award. And the group could actually be involved because they are the losers in this decision, or they are the winners in this decision, or they could be a third group that has nothing to do with this particular situation. They were not involved in the contest, or they were so far in the periphery they don't care about the contest, but they are drawn into it because this is a dangerous situation of some variety. So you could also have the groups as outsiders. So I'm trying to throw in some ideas here, how these dynamics could function. So the arbiter makes the call. One of the groups gets the award. His pack backs him up. Now, another pack, seeing an opportunity to strike at their enemies, champions the cause of the losers of this decision. Now, depending on how this is set up, the mundane people in this may be completely unaware of the fact that there are lycanthropes involved. In fact, the adventurers in this group may be completely unaware of the fact that there are lycanthropes involved. The player characters could be completely ignorant of the supernatural. This could be a beginning adventure to that, entering that element entering into a campaign, or they could be people who are aware that the supernatural exists, but they are new to it. So again, it could be, or they could be old hands at it, and this is just another episode of the television series Supernatural. You know what I mean? So now you have this dynamic set up. One pack defending the winners of that contest because they made that decision and they're also behind it. Another group of lycanthropes attacking them and using the two groups that in this college or high school or Hogwarts competition as proxies. So this entire adventure could never actually involve many lycanthropes. It could be all through proxy political stuff if you like that kind of thing, and you could do this in a narrative style game, though I'm not a fan of narrative style games, and it kind of pains me that I'm throwing out ideas that could be used in them, but that's just me. So eventually it's going to have to come to a head. Either the proxies are going to have to come to head again and try to figure out what's going on, and in the process they may very well discover that lycanthropes exist. On another level, the lycanthrope groups may come head to head because lycanthropes are being physical beings. They are transforming. They are frequently involved in more physical confrontations and physical violence than are the mundanes who aren't lycanthropes. They are animal, and their animal nature comes into play. So there's a lot of potential here for political machinations on a number of different levels and in a number of different power dynamics. And where the player characters are in this, it could be one of the two groups in the school. They could be outsiders in the school. They could be outside researchers brought in by someone else completely. They could be in a Bureau 13. They could be a group that came from the outside because someone suspects something supernatural is going on. They could be one of the two groups of the lycanthropes, though I would have them be the protagonists in this, those that back the decision of the arbitrator, whatever. As opposed to being the other group, because I don't like evil people if I can avoid it, evil player characters. But if that's what your group wants, then that's what they can do. You could potentially have more than one group of players involved in this as well. You could have a GM or even co-GMs running different teams, and they finally come to realize that they're in opposition to each other and what happens therein. So that could be a group, one GM running a game where their group is making discoveries, this GM over here with their group is making discoveries, and eventually they come together and boom! The two tables that club that thought they were playing completely different adventures, or the same adventures by different GMs, suddenly find that they're in the same adventure and going head to head in some level, either political or physical. I did not have a resolution in the dream. In the dream, I woke up before I figured out what the end was. But frequently my dreams have beginning, middles, and ends, so there was potential if I had slept longer, I would have figured out how this ended. But I didn't. But I thought that there are people out there who could really use this particular idea. I think it's kind of nice. And again, the power scale is very easy to slide on this. You could do this in kindergarten groups if you wanted to. I mean, or year one, I think is what they call it in Britain. But how lethal this is entirely up to the GM and the system you're running and things like that. You can do this in Toon if you wanted to, I guess. But yeah, this is a relatively system neutral, setting neutral idea, and again, the only thing it requires is the existence of the supernatural, because the lycanthropes kind of are important to this. But then again, maybe they aren't lycanthropes. Maybe they think they're lycanthropes and they aren't. Maybe you want to change this up and make them be biker gangs or street gangs or mercenary units. So you could divorce this from my original idea of being supernatural and make this something else for a few dollars more. All right, one guy hired and he's playing people off against each other to make a profit at the end and bringing all of the asshats to justice. So there is the potential for making this non-supernatural. I just happen to like the main core idea I dreamed of, which is that the werewolves or whatever the lycanthropes in question are the main draw, because I happen to be a big fan of lycanthropes. Like them far better than vampires and the undead. Always have. Werebears are my favorite, in case anyone hadn't figured that one out yet. So tell me, do you think this idea has any merit? Could you use it? And if you do use it or want to use it, feel free. How would you change it? How would you customize it to whatever system you're running or whatever setting you're running? And at what power level would you like to use it? I would like to know.